Morning, everyone. Al Fragnoli, Zach Sooty, legal leaders. We're joined today by Dan Heck. Dan is the Assistant Athletic Director for Marketing at Auburn University. Dan, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Al, for having me. Always good to be on with a fellow Chippewa. And Zach, anybody that's a friend to a fellow Chippewa is a good friend of mine. So fire up chips.
Absolutely. Fire up chips it is. Dan, we're going to dive right into it here with you today. We got a couple questions on the docket. First one is you have a ton of experience in college athletics. You've spent some time, as we just mentioned, in Central Michigan, fire up chips. You've worked at the University of Arizona and now over at Auburn University. Talk to us a little bit about your journey in college athletics and what ultimately got you to your current role as the Assistant Athletic Director of Marketing at Auburn.
Yeah, thanks, Al. And when I just think back on the last 10 years, I think like a lot of us who were in college around that time, if you would have told us 10 years ago that we're at where we are right now, we would have said you're crazy. So when I look back on the 10 years of that journey from CMU to Arizona to Auburn, I just think that I'm extremely blessed to be here at a place like this and at a time like this. It really is just a blessing personally and professionally just to be where I'm at. And, from a professional standpoint, the path really was very it was very rooted in that background at Central Michigan. I think having that background that we talked about, we joke around and we say fire up chips, but really like that was the key to this happening. I would not be where I'm at without that education at CMU, and especially the start there was starting as an intern. And when I started as an intern at CMU, I didn't really know what that meant. I just knew that in my mind I had to just cross off a piece of paper to graduate, right? Like I'm going to do an internship and go on my way and I'll find a job. And really, the hands-on experience that you gain in an internship role, that really, I was bought in, at that point. I think my first Auburn football, my first CMU football game was a Friday night Maction game going into Labor Day weekend, and I was that intern that I didn't know if I had any skill set or was qualified for the job, but I just knew I wanted to try to work as hard as I could for the marketing department there. And a lot of people that know Mike Dabbs at CMU, he kind of took a chance on me and hired me. And he's one of my best friends today and a mentor of mine. And I think all of us have a story of a mentor that took a chance on us that really, allowed us to get our foot in the door. And that's what I would say about CMU and Mike Dabbs. If it wasn't for Mike and CMU, I probably wouldn't be where I'm at today. So I think that mentality of working at a mid-major at CMU has allowed me to kind of carry that work ethic no matter where I'm at, regardless of the size of the school or the budget or the resources or the amount of fans that are in the stands, just kind of having that same mentality at CMU. So at CMU, as you mentioned, I was an intern, and then I was fortunate enough to stay on for grad school, which is where Al and I had some classes together, and was able to get a master's degree on continuing the sports management program. So again, having that formal education in the classroom was awesome. Learning from some really amazing instructors that are at CMU. But also again, that's really where I kind of transitioned from being an intern to taking on more of a full-time role and understanding what it's like to work with a coach on a marketing plan, or work with a student athlete, or even an AD or a senior level administrator on a project that an intern may not have had a chance to work on. So really that transition from undergrad to full-time, and was getting to that first year after grad school where I was at CMU, and kind of saw the writing on the wall and realized I wasn't probably going to be able to stay in Mount Pleasant for my entire life, as much as we all love our time in college. For undergrad and grad school, I knew that it wasn't going to be very sustainable for me to be able to pursue my entire college athletics career at CMU. So kind of just through a few connections was able to Dr. Mumford always says it's not just who you know, but it's who knows you. And so when I was applying to some jobs out at out in the industry my first year out of grad school, found out that I had a mutual connection of my previous boss at Arizona. And so again, I knew nobody out at Arizona, just kind of applied and went through the process and flew out for an interview, landed back at the Detroit airport and had a voicemail on my phone, and it was my future boss at that time, offering me the job. And so just one of those stories that amazing time. Took that next step from, I knew I kind of understood college athletics a little bit at the CMU at the mid-major level, but wanted to kind of test the waters and see if that would apply at a Power Five school. So to be able to be out at Arizona, I was out there for 4 years and handled a lot of the traditional marketing and advertising responsibilities in the college athletics department, but I also was able to work a lot with the social media and the digital strategy at Arizona. So a lot of the revenue generating ticket sales, game day experience, but also adding in the social component. Arizona was at the time really trying to ramp up their social media efforts. The AD who was there at the time was very progressive with social media, and really we wanted to kind of match the athletics department's strategy to his strategy that he personally had on his accounts. And so for those 4 years, again, just working with an iconic brand like Arizona. At the time, Rich Rodriguez was the head coach there, which a lot of our Michigan friends will recognize that name. And awesome time there where Arizona was building the football program. They actually went to Fiesta Bowl during my time there. They won the Pac-12 South one year. And at Arizona, that was unheard of at the time. Winning a Pac-12 South and going to Fiesta Bowl, that happened really fast in Coach Rodriguez's career. So working with him and his staff was awesome, just to kind of take a brand and building it kind of like an upstart. But also, on the flip side, having the tradition of Arizona basketball, that when you think of the college basketball blue bloods, to be able to work with that coaching staff every day, just amazing people out in the desert. Probably will, who knows, but I may never be out west ever again. So at that time in my career, was a young single guy and just was out west, just doing the best I could to work as hard as I could and make those connections. And really in 2016, I was very happy there. I was comfortable. But as the saying goes, maybe you don't want to be too comfortable. But I didn't have to wait around to find out if I was too comfortable. I was again not looking to leave, but just had a phone call out of the blue from the associate AD at Auburn, who I'd met at a conference, and he called me and said, "Hey, I'm not sure where you're at with your career, but we've got an opening at Auburn to be the director of marketing at the time, and would love to see if you are interested." And when somebody calls you, you're like that opportunity, you're gonna answer the phone, so answered the call, interviewed, and found myself out in Auburn, June 2016, and again, the last 4 years have been an amazing ride. I'm sure we'll touch on that a little bit on this call, but that was kind of the path to get from Mount Pleasant out to Tucson, and from Tucson to Auburn, Alabama.
That's some good stuff, Dan. And what I'd like to provide advice on is you always take the call, and you don't have to take the opportunity, but you should listen to it. It's your choice. So I think that's great advice that we like to provide here. You talked a lot about your experience and some awesome things that you've done or been a part of. What is something that you are most proud of from your career in athletics thus far?
That's a really good question. I think when I look back on the last 10 years, really what makes college athletics, probably any industry, especially, but I think college athletics, it's probably the people that you get to work with. And that might be a cliche answer, but, I'm sure there are countless numbers of marketing plans or campaigns or blogs or, awards that may have been written about stuff that our staffs have done over the last few years. But I think the thing that I'm the most proud of is the pipelines that have been built, and past assistant directors or past GAs, graduate assistants or interns who have gone on in the industry to be successful. At Auburn, we have an intern wall, kind of a "Where are they now?" wall of past interns that are featured and kind of want to brag on them and show where they're at in the industry, whether it's college athletics or the professional world. So, just helping other people achieve their goals. I talked about Mike and who mentored me. I think, as I've kind of made my way, through the industry and have grown older, I guess, is just giving back to those that used to be in our shoes 10 years ago to help them get to their path. And, it's kind of like winning a national championship to me. It sounds cheesy, but like when we have a graduate assistant that is going out and they're finishing up their final year of grad school, it's always that anxious feeling that we all remember, is like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get a job. Like, Dan told me to buy into this program, and I've done everything I can, but what if I don't get a job? And just mentoring them through that process of it's not a matter of if, but when. Stay patient. That right opportunity is going to come. And so when you find out that that graduate assistant has the chance to interview, and then they're going for their on-campus interview, or they get the offer, that really is exciting from our standpoint, from the full-time staff. That's a celebration for them, knowing that they're going to be able to pursue their dream, and kind of reaffirms the fact that we must have done some good things to be able to put them in that position to be successful at another Power 5 school in college athletics, or at another professional organization. So that to me is an accomplishment, is just being able to help other people achieve their dreams.
That's awesome, Dan. That is, I 100% agree with you. That's powerful stuff right there. And you mentioned the importance of having a mentor. You had it with Mike Dabbs, and now you being able to transition and be a mentor for so many others is so critically important for others' growth and development. So that's awesome. You mentioned a lot of neat experiences that you've had. One of them that stood out was the Fiesta Bowl. That's pretty exciting stuff. Obviously, working in sports, working in college athletics can be very rewarding, very exciting. What do you love most about working in college athletics?
I would say, really from day one, I talk about CMU or Arizona, whether it's Mount Pleasant, Michigan, Tucson, Arizona, or Auburn, Alabama. I think it's just it's two. If I could choose two, it's being able to impact the lives of student athletes, being able to see, even though I'm not a coach, I'm not directly, in the meeting room with these student athletes and directly, working with them on a daily basis from a marketing standpoint. But the work that we do impacts, their competitive and their ability to win. And so, we always say that, we put the fans, in the stands, and we entertain the fans. And so the student athletes win the game. It's up to us to win the crowd. So if we're not putting people in the stands, and we're not providing a great home field advantage for the athletes to win, that's not going to be a very fun atmosphere for those athletes to go out and play for 60 minutes, or to play in the court or their respective venues. So if we're doing our job and that place is packed and sold out, they're going to be able to, win more successfully if we're doing our job. So just to be able to work around 18 to 22-year-olds, and again, watch them achieve their goals, seeing them come in as a freshman and leave as a senior, and watching them grow personally and professionally, being able to work with just such a wide variety of coaches. You have past Olympians, past coaches who have, been to College World Series or national champions, and just to be able to have the opportunity to work with them and hear their stories, it's honestly an honor. And then on the flip side, outside of the walls of our athletics department, I think just the passion of the fan base is really what makes college athletics stand out. And we all have friends that work in the pro ranks, and there's no knock on that. I think there's a lot of great people that work in professional sports, and there are a lot of really amazing professional sports organizations, but just the cultural and the generational just passion and just obsession with your team that comes with college athletics, especially where we're at down here in the Southeastern Conference. And not that it's not crazy, with the rivalry with Michigan and Ohio State, and Michigan State. I'm definitely not discrediting that, but it's to a whole new level down here in the South. And you're talking about people poisoning oak trees and people that are doing crazy stuff, where literally it's lines that are drawn in the sand with families that have had hundreds of years, over 100 years of passion and in rivalry. And so you just cannot replace that in any other sector of America or any other industry. And so I think that's one of the things that sets college athletics apart, for sure.
So Dan, you've talked about your mentor. You've talked about your role in having interns and helping them succeed in the future. You've had an opportunity to work with different bosses and leaders throughout your career in sports. And as your career has progressed, you've become a leader yourself. So what are some of the qualities that make up some of the best leaders? And what are some qualities that you want to share with others as you actually make leaders?
That's a really good question, Zach. I think going into college athletics, or going into a place like Arizona, for example, or Auburn, you read these names of these athletics directors or these senior associates, these people that are at such high levels of leadership, and it seems almost just like this mystical like role or this figure, and that these people are not normal people. But really, I think what impressed me when getting to know my past bosses and the past leaders of these athletics departments and my current the current leadership of our department is probably just the humility and just how genuine and real and authentic the leaders that I've been fortunate enough to work with have been. And don't get me wrong, when business needs to get done, business will get done. But I think that is part of how a lot of the past mentors and past leaders that I've been able to work with have done a great job of, is just connecting with people in a real way and in a humble way. I'll never forget just being able to sit in a meeting with an AD for the first time as a young intern, and the first time an AD asks for the opinion of the room, like you think that the person that's they might have the title, they're going to be in there making demands, and this I want it done this way. Well, really, what I've learned from there is, I mean, if you're in a leadership role, and what I've taken from this now is I don't want to be the smartest guy in the room. If I'm the CEO of the company, or if I'm have the opportunity to someday be an athletics director, I don't want to be the smartest guy in the meeting room that I'm at. And it's not about what your opinion is or your skill set. It's the collective skill set of the group. So let the leaders of that area be able to do their job. So the leaders that have impressed me in the past have been humble enough to to admit when they're wrong, humble enough to allow their staff to do their jobs, and allow them to even make mistakes, knowing that's part of this growth process, but also being assertive enough to be able to get the job when it needs to be done. And I think that would be one, is just the humility, and then two would just be communication. A lot of the leaders, especially in college athletics, we have a lot of eyeballs and a lot of attention on what we do. So having a leader that can communicate very clearly, whether that's through social media, so whether that's through a tweet or through a Zoom call nowadays in 2020, or it's whether that's through a written piece of communication, or even just talking to somebody in the hallway or in a meeting, just that leader that can look you in the eyes and effectively and clearly communicate their vision, or be real with you and authentic with you to understand what you're going through, connecting with you, understanding the level that you're at, and you're not being too big or too powerful to take the time to give you 10 minutes of their day. Has been impressive to see that.
That's awesome. That's all valuable information, Dan. You mentioned communication. I think so many companies and organizations struggle, across the board with communication, both internally and externally. So that is huge. And being able to, see a leader's vision is critical as well, as you mentioned that. And just showing humility and showing that they care about their people is critical. So all great stuff. Dan, just to wrap it up here real quick, you've had a lot of success early on in your career. You've been in sports for probably close to a decade now, but you talked a little bit about your internship experience over at Central Michigan about 10 years ago. And that's kind of how you got your start and broke into the sports industry. And here we are in 2020, as you just got a recent promotion here. And so you moved from intern to assistant athletic director at a major college institution here. Talk about how you've been able to kind of transition and move along so quickly, and what's some advice that you could give to people that are looking to break into the sports world and really make this a lifelong career for themselves.
Yeah, I think just looking back over the past 10 years, it really, to me, it was just how can I do more? And I think there's at certain points, to be completely candid, where that's caught up with me, where I realized that at this day and age, and now that I'm a new dad, recently had our son Webb in March, and I was married to my lovely wife Courtney back in 2019. Is just keeping that same drive. I'll always have that same drive, but your priorities are changing a little bit differently when you're a new dad and have a son, and just never losing sight of your goal and your dream and the passion that you have in the industry. That never will burn away from me. But just I think when I started out, and just still to this day, is just keeping that drive of never saying no. I think when you're young, you're able to do that. You may not be able to do that when you're a dad, and and a new husband, but just never saying no to any opportunity that you have when you're 22 years old and you're fresh out of college and you want to gain experience in the industry. You have to say yes to every opportunity that comes your way. You might be selling programs at a minor league baseball game. You might be in the concession stand serving up nacho cheese, and those are all things that we've all done. I'd like to say to our student interns and our staff that I would never ask an intern to do something that I've never done myself. So, just being able to gain a wide variety of experiences and learn that work ethic kind of sets a foundation for you for the next 10, 20, 30 years of your career. So just finding every opportunity you can to volunteer, every opportunity. It could be in any kind of sector of the sports industry, but I would recommend getting as much sports business, sports management experience as possible to have on your resume. That's going to be the fastest way to learn, the most hands-on way to learn. And then once you get into your foot into the industry, it's I guess really regardless of if you're in this industry or not, I would just say soaking up as much information as possible. As we talked about right now, in 2020 in this pandemic, a lot of us are still, at home and maybe still will be for a while. And let's use this time to grow and get better on the other side of it. So whether it's reading blogs or listening to podcasts or checking out this wonderful series that Al and Zach have provided for us. There's a number of different guests that Al and Zach have had, and a lot of different examples of these kinds of leadership, interviews and leadership series that are available on YouTube or whichever device that you want to listen to. But so just growing as a professional, so that when the time comes for the job market maybe to open up, that you get your skills sharpened up and you're ready to go out in the field. And regardless of where you're at right now, you can always grow. And just even setting up informational interviews with people. I've one-on-ones. I've can't tell you how many times in the last 8 months I've had an undergrad at Auburn or another school be able to reach out and just not looking for anything more than just, hey, I'm interested in college athletics. How did you get your job? And just setting up one-on-ones with people that you want to learn more about in the industry is something I would recommend as well.
All awesome stuff, Dan, that you shared with us. You've talked about the importance of mentorship. You've talked about what it takes to be a strong leader. And all the leaders that you've been around. You're doing great things, Dan. Like we talked about, you've advanced your career pretty quickly here, but you're now in a leadership role, and you're doing a lot of great things to motivate the younger generation. And I'm sure you're excited to see where their journey takes them. We're excited to continue to follow your journey here, and we can't thank you enough, though, for providing and sharing all this valuable information with us. We know you're a busy guy. You've got a growing family, and you got a lot of work to do over there at Auburn. So thank you so much for taking some time out of your weekend here to chat with us, Dan. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Like I said earlier, just an honor to be on your show. And again, thank you so much for all the work you're doing to spread the love and the knowledge to the next generation or anybody that's curious to learn more about leadership in the sports industry. And just again, thank you for having me today.